Bug Exterminators of Reddit, what was your "we gonna need a bigger boat" moment? Spent the summer between high school and college working for a local, family-run, exterminating company. Nice gig, residential treatments during the day, mosquito fogging at night, and the occasional dairy farm treated for flies and rats. One day I'm at one of these dairy farms and enter the milking parlor to spray and set up traps. See a rather large cat across the parlor from the front door. Good for him, I think, growing fat, eating rodents and whatever else he's caught over the years. I enter the parlor and the cat moves, and I realize the cat is not a cat, but a rat, easily the size of a 12-15 pound feline, and running down a drainage pipe. Decided that I did not want to be a sacrifice to the rat king that day and opted out of there fast. Pulled back insulation in a crawl space to track termite damage. About 100 baby juvenile cottonmouths came out from where the dry vent wasn't hooked up properly, keeping them nice and warm and moist in the insulation as fall approached. I'm only a termite exterminator. Got out that crawl space quicker than lightning. To this day I'm sure the termites and snakes are living under there happily ever after. For those who don't know, cottonmouths are extremely venomous snakes that are known to have possibly lethal bites. Got called out to a house that had a roach problem. So I walk in the house and I crap you not, you could barely see the color of the walls and ceiling for all the roaches. It was literally raining roaches from the ceiling. The people inside just sitting around like it's just a normal Monday and laughing about catching roaches falling from the ceiling. Without a doubt the most disgusting thing I've encountered. I worked at a gas station on overnights and asked my manager to do something about the spider infestation. I hate spiders, and it was so bad customers started going to other places because these big spiders would build webs over the door in the span of 40 minutes between customers. Plus the entire awning and overhang was just a mess of webs and hanging spider nests. So she goes out and buys some spray, and it barely does anything. So she goes and buys a bunch of spray, and is standing outside one day just spraying the awnings and overhang, the doors, air pump, Anyways, there was this large crack in the siding, so she stuck the spray nozzle inside and started spraying. I'd have died. What followed was so bad, I probably would have died from terror. The way she described it, after the screaming stopped and the color came back, was as if someone turned a great big faucet on. Hundreds of spiders just came pouring out like water. Must have been a ton of nests inside there. Burn the gas station down. Not an exterminator. Frick it, since we're all just sharing our worst anyway. My apartment's got an indoor trash chute under the kitchen sink. It has a habit of falling open by itself, and pests crawl up and into our house from it. Roaches, the works. We'd been fighting them for weeks. Eventually 17-year-old me comes up with the brilliant plan of doing a seal. I used trash bags and some strong ass tape to make an airtight seal around the offending chute. I do 3 layers of magic. The barrier works. The roaches couldn't cross into our realm from theirs. 3 years later we start finding small dead roaches in the kitchen. Maybe one in the toilet. I've forgotten all about the dark forces I banished years ago, and I'm mystified. The bodies start getting bigger as the weeks pass. Eventually we start finding live specimens and they're pretty large. I finally twig that perhaps the ancient seal has been breached. I get on down to the compartment under the sink and open it up. Horror. The roaches had slowly bitten through the seals and ended up breeding within the layers of the seal. Eventually they got through the final seal, and as the breach grew wider, larger and more vicious bugs got through. I could see them roiling and seething in a bunch within the plastic. I realized what a huge mistake I made all those years ago, and now the evil was back for me. I ended up bringing in some industrial strength pesticide and fighting through the outer guard to get to the breach. I couldn't let any survivors past me, or it would get into the house. I pushed a tube into the breach and made a temporary seal around it with more tape, and let loose with the pesticide. I could hear the roaches scrambling in the plastic, getting more hectic as they started to die. The fighting continued as I was still rounding up survivors who escaped and putting them down while the pesticide did its work. Once I heard nothing from the seal, I tore it down. It was carnage. Beyond disgusting. That motivated us to tear that crap out and get a new, roach-proof chute installed. And I got an idea for a fantasy setting for my creative work. We have a problem with Japanese beetles. Like, a big one. I bought a trap after seeing 10 or 20 hanging out on my roses, but then the trap was completely full within an hour. We're talking thousands of beetles caught in just an hour. So I go investigate, surely they didn't all come from my roses, right? So I start checking my trees, a few here and there until I get to this crepe myrtle at the very edge of the yard. It was literally covered in freaking beetles. As in, the beetles were freaking. Hundreds of thousands of beetles. My dad decided the thing to do was to shake the tree and scare them off. That was the worst idea. Beetles rained from the heavens. The sky was dark and swirling with beetles. They covered me, even though I had retreated to a safe distance, sticking in my hair, crawling in my clothes. Dad stopped, dropped and rolled, as these beetles were stirred into action. So were all of the beetles from all of the trees beyond. It was Armageddon. I was not convinced I would survive this. A few days later, Dad, dressed in a makeshift hazmat suit, went out and doused every tree with the most toxic bug killer he could find. Even now, weeks later, we have to pick the stiff corpses of beetles out of our dog's fur whenever he comes inside. I still have nightmares. Frick Japanese beetles. Not an exterminator, but this happened to a friend of mine in college. He was in a frat and actually lived in the frat house. During one of the parties they threw a water pipe was broken. They didn't stop the party or really even act like it happened, so there was just water all over the place. Eventually they just shut off the water but didn't call any kind of plumber cleaner for the water that was probably an inch deep on the floor. Instead they set up little stepping stones to make it out the front door without getting in the water. However, because there was so much stagnant water just sitting around, mosquitoes were breeding like crazy. I crap you not, you couldn't be in the house for more than 5 minutes without getting 50 mosquito bites. The worst place I've ever been. They were eventually kicked out of the house when the frat advisor saw what happened, called the landlord, and the landlord had seen what happened. Yep, sounds like college. My husband and his first wife had a spider infestation in their backyard one summer. It started with spiders in their cedar hedges. A few. They knew they were in trouble when the entire hedge turned white from the webs. My husband goes to the hardware store and gets some methalion, dons a hazmat suit and goes outside to start spraying. As he sprays, the cedars start to shake. The entire 6 feet high hedge is shaking. Spiders start dropping on him, and he drops the methalion and runs. A week later all the grass is now white too. He calls 2 different exterminators, who say, "Frick this," but also tell him to call the Ministry of Natural Resources. A resource officer comes out, looks, explains what the spiders are. I don't recall the species, but they were big, and apparently the eggs can lay in gestation for decades, waiting for exactly the right environment. Apparently they like to lay nests in wood. Being the Ministry of Natural Resources, they don't offer to kill the spiders. Natch. He is out of options, and has to wait until the frost kills all of these bastards. In Canada, frost comes usually October-ish, so frost comes. Never has he been so thrilled to greet a Canadian winter. Next spring he calls his buddy, kind of a roughneck, to help him dismantle the woodshed in the back of the yard, which is assumed to be the nesting grounds. As my husband and his then wife cower inside, they watch out the kitchen door as Buddy tears down to the shed to burn at his farm. The shed's rafters are covered in what looks like pillows, clouds, foam. All the rafters are positively bathed in spider eggs. Buddy dismantles the shed, puts it in his trailer and takes all the wood, the nests, to the farm for cremation. Buddy also has a terrific time going up to the window and taunting them with the rafters. As an epilogue, just when they think this nightmare is over, one spring day they have a nice bath, and as they get out of the tub there is a large spider, the same species, on the outside of the tub. He crushes it with a CD case. It is so large it made a crunch. That must have been the last one, as they never returned. Freaking horror show. Bedbugs. They're called bedbugs for a reason. Choosing to live in the tufts fold seams of your bed to be close to the blood meal you while you sleep. In high infestations they'll resort to adjacent furniture. Furthermore, the windowsill, ceiling, baseboards, closet, not ideal places to hide, but will when the ideal areas are overcrowded. I visit an apartment unit for an inspection and the lady opens the door. From the doorway I see bedbugs around the door frame, ceiling, and crawling on her blouse and neck. She's oblivious to the problem due to mental health issues in low-income housing. I told the landlord this would be a challenge to say the least. Residents moved out on us without paying rent, which is what happens every single time. We go to check out the trailer expecting the worst. It's not exactly clean, but it's not trashed either. No power, so it's dark and hot. But my co-worker and I go through the trailer front to back, and I even said to her, I can't believe it's not trashed. This isn't bad at all. We make our way back towards the door and she starts screaming, what the frick, and totally freaking out. I am still in the dark inside and she jumps outside in the sun and I see it, her legs are black. I mean freaking absolutely covered in fleas. Then it hits me. I had pants on and I pulled my pants up and they were all over me too. We ran back to the shop and blew ourselves off with blowers, and the shop even had fleas for a week after that. A shop that is nothing but concrete. Beekeeper, but most of us are somehow in the wasp removal business too. Mentor thought he saw small hornet's nest and took about the precautions of making a dainty wasp trap out of vinegar in an old Sprite bottle. Upon realizing the hellacious magnitude of those little suckers, he filled an outdoor vac with dishwater, set the hose under his gutter, and set the thing to suck. He's already emptied out 3 gallons of hornets. By buttholes. Not a bug exterminator, but the first apartment I ever got after college I now refer to as crap hole. There were lots of off things about crap hole, like how people like to break my apartment's windows, or how, upon move-in, the dishwasher turned out to be just for show and inoperable. Crap hole was street level. The basement level, which I discovered via a crawl space door hanging open into the alleyway that led to the washer dryer area, was filled with abandoned construction supplies. To the brim. As in, old paint and wooden screws toppling out of the crawl space. I knew it was a cesspool. I knew pests probably lived there. I figured raccoons. And decided to get on the lookout for a new apartment. The day of my visit. The day I need to pack all my stuff. I'm showering in the 2x2 shower stall, and something touches my feet. It's red, with long crooked antennas, but it's small. Just as I kick it off, 3 more appear. Baby German cockroaches have hatched in the drain of my shower stall. They're crawling up through the drain and onto my feet, up my legs, up the walls. Within seconds they're everywhere. I ran out of the bathroom, still wet and soapy, and slammed the door. Nope. This is crap hole, and no door fits its frame. The cockroaches come bursting out through the crack underneath it. I run to the bedroom, shampoo in my hair, my body wetting the whole floor behind me, and shake my boyfriend awake. Before I can even tell him what's happening, there's a mew down the hall. My cat had been in the bathroom while I showered. Frick, I run back, will myself to open the bathroom door, where roaches are still scampering under the cracks and desperate mew sounds are emanating. I open it. The roaches are climbing the mirror. They're in the shower curtain. I find my cat, a baby roach on his side, one in his whiskers, and flick them off, grabbing him and carrying him outside. So there we sat, outside our apartment, the 3 of us trying to figure out what to do at this point. All we want is to get out of crap hole, and now every item we own is infested. Now no matter what we do, crap hole will follow us, and it'll screw not just us, but our new neighbors, our new neighborhood, too. We googled it. We put everything we owned in an XXL black double thick garbage bag meant for yard work from Home Depot. We filled each bag with pesticide. We moved the bags to our new apartment and let them sit out on the patio for 2 days. We slept on wood floors. We bought all new groceries. We bought 2 new towels. 2 days pass. We open the bags and nothing moves. We wash all the clothes linens. I haven't seen a cockroach since. But frick that apartment. Frick you, crap hole. May you burn to the ground. I was sitting at the dinner table with my family last August and there were lots of wasps around. I hate these suckers to their tiny chitin cores. What was even more suspicious was that they kept coming from underneath the table all the time. I also have the habit of rocking with my chair by pushing myself away from the underside of the table. The moment my legs touched the underside I felt a cracking followed by a buzzing and stinging pain. Well, turns out these flying fricks decided that beneath our dinner table was cozy enough to nest. The moment I went under the table to see how big the nest was, can only be compared to this on scene where Ripley meets the alien when it comes out from the shadows. A hoarder type older lady passed away and we were called over because of bedbugs. Those insidious little suckers were everywhere. The top and bottom of her old mattress were nearly painted black from digested blood stains and the smell was awful. We flipped the mattress after using a bedbug vacuum only to find a layer of bedbug skins several inches deep all on the floor. Literally tens or hundreds of thousands of bedbug skins. They were in the walls, the outlets, books, shoes, and even inside the home phone. Even the door frame to her apartment had bedbugs in the hinges and under the doormat. That job took a while and unfortunately I've done a few that have been nearly as bad. Obligatory, I'm not an exterminator, but my dad and stepmom held their wedding at our house. They wanted something small, close family and close friends only. Basically like an average get together with cake and a ceremony. They got Italian food catered and it was overall an amazing time. Fast forward to maybe 2 or 3 days after, I was cleaning up the last of the mess from the party and I go to take the garbage out. There are a handful of flies around the garbage but I think nothing of it because, well, it is trash. After all, I had 2 bags of garbage in my hands so I kinda have to kick the garbage can open. I kick it open, it flings open, and there is a sea of maggots. We're talking in the tens of thousands at the very least, maybe hundreds. I couldn't see any garbage beneath them. I had kicked it open with such force that many of them had flung out and onto me. I was wearing crappy old navy flip-flops and oversized basketball shorts. Some actually flew up the leg of my pants from the kick and onto my bare feet. I dropped everything and screamed as loud as I've ever screamed before. I went into the driveway to shake out my shorts, and I even started crying a bit. I have an incredible fear of maggots and this experience had made it 10 times as horrible to me. My dad and stepmom got home from a movie and I was having my little meltdown in the driveway. He asked what was wrong and I told him. He went to go see for himself. I heard a scream, and he ran back to the garage. I went inside to cool down a bit. He came back in 15 minutes visibly shaken. I asked him what he ended up doing and he said, I just went to the garage, got all the wasp, ant, spider, and snake killing chemicals as I could, opened up the garbage with my eyes closed, and unloaded every single can. What had happened was that we had so much meat left over from the catering order, chicken parmesan, Italian sausage, etc., that we had to throw it all away, in the garbage. This was during July in Texas so the meat had been rotting in the dry 103-degree heat for an entire day or two. Walked into a house for a roach startup. The fricking walls moved. They were in the dressers, beds, closets, furniture, not to mention common areas like the kitchen and baths. Heck, they were in the walls. The place was an old rundown 5000 plus SQFT nightmare that I had to clear out single-handedly. 3 months of weekly 2-hour services and I got things under control. Then the rat problem started. I wasn't too heartbroken when the service was cancelled for non-payment. There's a certain point when arson becomes a public service. In college I lived in an apartment that had a porch. Above us was another unit with a balcony over our porch. The guys above us were too lazy to take trash out in the winter so they just put the trash bags on the balcony and they sit there frozen until they took them all to the dumpster. So once spring rolled around, this old garbage thawed out and caught the attention of some critters. This was unknown to us until we were sitting on the porch and maggots literally start raining through the deck planks from above. That was some true nightmare crap. You have been visited by the IT lizard. Upvote or have bad internet for a month. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.